to enforce food sharing on the better-fed countries of Northern Europe. Britain, which has managed to make itself just about self-sufficient in food by dint of a great national effort, has withdrawn from the continent and shelters behind its enhanced nuclear deterrent. I think that's why they are actually renewing their deterrent, by the way, right now. Russia, the greatest beneficiary of climate change in terms of food production, is the undisputed great power of Asia. However, the reunification of China after the chaos of the 2020s and 2030s poses a renewed threat to its Siberian borders, for even the much reduced Chinese population of 800 million is unable to feed itself from the country's increasingly arid farmland, which was devastated by the decline of rainfall over the North Chinese plain and the collapse of the major river systems. Southern India is re-emerging as a major regional power, but what used to be northern India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh remain swept by famine and anarchy due to the collapse of the flow in the glacier-fed Indus, Ganges, and Brahmaputra rivers. Welcome to 2036.
Can you talk about what geoengineering is?
It's the whole card. It's the get-out-of-jail-free card. It's the only one I know of, frankly. I don't know a single scientist, nor do I know many policymakers who, in their honest moments, think we are going to get our emissions down in time to avoid tumbling into potentially runaway climate change. The 2 degrees Celsius average global temperature, after that we lose control, natural factors, feedbacks from the permafrost melting and so on, take over and carry us up to really devastating levels of warming, 4, 5, 6 degrees. You're sort of trapped on this escalator and you can't get off. So if that's where we're heading, what do you do? And, you know, we'll do the best we can to cut the emissions, but it isn't going to happen in time. And the answer is geoengineering. You cheat. You find ways to hold the temperature down while you go on working at the project of getting your emissions down. That's a long-term solution. But if waiting, you know, just getting your emissions down is your only technique, sorry, you're going to trigger the feedbacks, you're in runaway. So cheat. Basically, the phrase we're all going to know in 2 years' time is SRM, and that stands for Solar Radiation Management. And it's a variety of techniques for interrupting enough of the sunlight incoming from, you know, from space before it reaches the surface to keep the temperature somewhat lower. I'm not talking about enough that it gets dark at noon or something. 1% would do. So you put sulfur dioxide in the stratosphere. I mean, we already dump a lot of it in the lower atmosphere, but put it up in the stratosphere where it'll stay for a couple of years. This is what big volcanoes do when they explode, and we actually get a cooler global temperature the year after a large volcano explodes. So we could do that. You know, we use mid-air refueling aircraft, put some sulfur dioxide in the stratosphere, or, you know, thicken up the clouds over the oceans, the low-lying cloud. There was even one suggestion, the Energy Secretary, Stephen Chu, bounced it out in March, I think it was. We could lower average global temperature by 1 degree Celsius simply by painting all the roofs and the roads white. Globally.
You know, I'm still troubled to some degree by this analysis that seems to sort of preclude the possibility of changes in the society that would dramatically begin to help us move away from this nightmare scenario. It seems that to some degree, the military may be pushing this, again, as a way to exercise more, as you're saying, a new frontier for the military. Could this lead, the threat of major calamity, lead to more push for authoritarianism, for military control over our societies?
I think that's true. I don't think necessarily, for example, I don't think the U.S. military want that, but I think it could well come out of this. But the initiative for geoengineering is not coming out of the military. I mean, I've spent a lot of time on this. It's coming out of the scientific community, who even a couple of years ago had an absolute taboo on ever mentioning geoengineering techniques in front of the children, us, because they didn't trust us. You know, I mean, if we know that we can just cheat and hold the heat down, we won't do the hard yards of getting the emissions down, so don't tell them. And what's changed in the scientific community is that they are so scared that, you know, that game's over. Yeah, there's a moral hazard here. Moral hazard be damned. We're going to need this stuff. So let's get some research done, understand what the side effects might be. So they've gone public.
Well, we're going to break here. We were actually going to end with you and go on to our next guest, but we think it would be interesting to mix it up. So we're going to keep you on with us and bring on our next guest. Gwynne Dyer is with us now. Climate Wars, the fight for survival as the world overheats. And he will be joined by Vandana Shiva. I think she has some more critical views of geoengineering, so it should be very interesting. So, yes. I know this has been a record heat wave we've been experiencing on the East Coast. It's going to get even hotter in a minute.
Oh, where have you been, my blue-eyed son? And where have you been, my darling young one? I've stumbled on the sides of 12 misty mountains. I'm walking and crawling 6 crooked highways. I've stepped in the middle of 7 sad forests. I've been out in front of a dozen dead oceans. I've been 10,000 miles in the mouth of a graveyard. And it's hard, and it's hard, and it's hard, and it's hard. The hard rains are gonna fall. Oh, what did you see, my blue-eyed son? And what did you see, my darling young one? I saw a newborn baby with wild wolves all around it. I saw a highway of diamonds with nobody on it. I saw a black branch with blood that kept dripping.